Hello and welcome to the Bedroom Studios podcast, the podcast where we talk about what goes on behind the scenes in the musician's world and bridge the industry gap by bringing their stories, expertise, and advice to early career artists. Subscribe to join us for a fun chat about life as a creative person, tips and tricks for pursuing an artistic career, navigating the music industry, and more. I am your host, Emma De La Rosa. I am a singer-songwriter and flute player based in Toronto, and today I will be interviewing Vicki Lovelee. Vicki Lovelee is a Chinese-Canadian alt-pop sensation based in Markham, Ontario. She is a classically trained pianist with a jazz vocal degree. Using her music knowledge and a passion for pop music, she creates a unique blend of pop with dark drama and orchestral sounds. Her music helps turn painful experiences into empowering anthems, offering solace to those who find refuge in her art. Her new album, Phase 2, Power Struggle, just dropped on September 27th, 2024. I'm so happy that you're here and I'm so happy that you're on the show.
I'm so excited to be here.
I'd like to start with having you give a little bit of an introduction for our audience and maybe a bit of background for your artistic journey and how you sort of got to where you are now.
Yeah, so my artist name is Vicki Lovelee, and I started releasing music back in 2019. And during the pandemic, I felt like that really helped me, like, because since there was nothing else to do, we had to literally stay at home. I felt like I was able to kind of give it my all and to kind of dive into writing and releasing, just kind of like getting into the groove of it. And I feel like since then, I've definitely got a chance to like find what I like, what I don't like, kind of putting together my sound. And I feel like 2 years ago when I started working with a new producer, his name is John, I felt like together we kind of put together like a really cool theatrical pop, dark pop blend and kind of like putting it together. And I feel like since then I've been like so excited to just dive deeper into this kind of style of music. Yeah.
Really cool. Do you feel that there is a memorable turning point for you?
Honestly, I feel like it was the first single that I worked with John, which was around 2 years ago. Because I feel like I haven't, like, working with him, he kind of understood, oh, okay, like I love adding violins. I like making songs like theatrical. Like when I brought my song to him, when I brought my demo to him, that I wanted to like slow down the ending, like slow down the tempo. And then, you know, he was not thrown off. He was like, hell yeah, like let's do it. Let's, you know, it's rare to hear like pop songs kind of change tempos in the middle of the song. And I feel like little things like that where whoever I'm working with, if they are as open to trying out unique ideas, then I think that it's like I'm able to kind of grow even more because it's like I love trying different ideas. Yeah.
Yeah, like I can be really insecure about my ideas when it comes to production stuff. So to have someone who sees the vision and can validate that and bring it to where it needs to be is so important.
Yeah. And honestly, if anything, it's like, it's even better if they're like, I love that idea. Let's try to take it up a notch even more. You know what I mean? It's like, it's cool when you find people who are like on the same page, but it's like, hey, let's see how far we can push it.
Yeah.
Like when I worked on my song called Hunter, I think I released that last year actually. The song changes tempos like 10, 15 times. Like we go slower, we go faster, and it changes so many times. And working on it was so tedious because when you like record the harmonies and stuff, you can't just copy and paste it because the tempo changes. So it was tedious, but it turned out so cool at the end.
Are you really into musical theater?
Honestly, I love the music more than the play aspect because I love how like theatrical the songs are from like different Broadway shows. one of my favorites, which I feel like it's kind of obvious, is Phantom of the Opera. Like
Yes.
I love all the songs from that musical. It's like my
I see
favorite.
the connection
I
between.
know, honestly, there's like with the album that I am going to put out next in September, I definitely was listening to that soundtrack as like inspiration for sure.
Hmm. And the reason I asked is because I could literally see your music being made into a musical.
Oh my God, stop. That's such a compliment. Oh my
It
God.
just
Honestly,
fits.
like even with like my live shows this year, I like because I feel like I love visuals like with
Mm-hmm.
shows or like the artwork or like music videos, and I love stories and I love
Yeah,
like shock factor. So I like putting those two together.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
So you mentioned your album. So your new album's called Phase 2 Power Struggle. And for those who
Yes.
don't know, you released was it was your debut album, right? Phase 1 Shadows in 2021.
That was oh my God, that was so long ago. That was back in
Yeah.
2021. And with that project, because it was my first album ever, I just kind of I had a brief idea of like, the phase one, phase two series, but I was like, okay, let
Mm-hmm.
me just put this first one out just to kind of get some practice of like putting out an album. So that was like a really cool, I think, like stepping stone for
Yeah.
like the story I'm trying to tell with like phase one, which was like sad songs basically, like things that we struggle with, things that um it's more like darker
Yeah.
themes. And then with this new album, phase two, it's like I'm trying to be confident. I'm trying to gain my power back, but you're still struggling here and there. Like you can't
Mm-hmm.
just switch overnight. So I felt like this next album was like a nice transition to like, I'm not sad anymore, but I'm not quite there yet. It's like in the middle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can relate to that so much. That hits a chord with me. It
Yeah.
makes me kind of emotional. It's been an emotional week.
No,
That hits a chord with
honestly,
me so much though because
yes.
sometimes like yes, we all like a lot depending on who you are and what your background is and all that. There are kind of external power struggles
Yes.
in society. But
Yeah.
I feel personally a lot of power struggles within myself and like wanting to be a very confident person, but also being a very shy person or wanting to be like like extroverted. And then that struggling with like being more introverted.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I connect with it in that way, what you were just talking about.
Yeah. And honestly, like when I was putting together this album, I actually originally was going to call it Phase 2 Retaliate
Mm-hmm.
because going into it, I was like, yeah, I want this album to be like I'm not going to cry anymore. Like I'm not struggling. I'm like, I'm so confident. But then when I finished writing all the songs and I was listening to it from like beginning to end, I was like, wait, like I'm not quite there yet. There's still like I didn't want to gloss over the fact that even though I want to be like that bitch, like I want to be like super confident that I'm still there's still a little bit of like oh like I'm kind of struggling still. So I thought power struggle was like a way better theme of the album.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think you kind of you are that bitch. You're
Yeah.
like I see you. I see you. And I'm like
We all try. I'm trying. That's so funny. Oh my God. I try. I try.
yeah. But I like that though. Um cuz like, even on our best days, it
Yeah,
could still be stuff going
exactly.
on.
Exactly. Yeah.
Can you speak more to like how you approach writing about subjects like around mental health and like different
Mm-hmm.
kinds of struggle in your
Mm-hmm.
music?
So I feel like because in my personal life, I'm so open with talking about like mental health and like going to therapy and like things like that, that I feel like that lets me dive even deeper when I write
Mm.
songs about mental health or more like sensitive topics. Um, for example, there's one of the songs in this album, with Guilty, for example. It's like a song about how you feel like you're stuck with this person. It could be like dating or friendship or anything. You're stuck with this person even though you know that they're no good for you, but then you feel guilty when you try to walk away from them. So it's almost like you're kind of like trapped, whether it's like emotional like manipulation, like maybe this person guilt trips you if you try to like leave. So little things like that, I feel like it's like writing songs lets me explore that feeling even more. Yeah.
Yeah. I can relate to that. Yeah, I'll give an example. So I was working on, like, I was writing this one song this summer, and I showed it to a couple of people, and they were like saying like, oh, I really like the lyrics in this one part. And I was thinking about it yesterday. I'm like, that's just like verbatim what happened. I'm not making anything up there. It's just kind of what happened, and I laid it out. But kind of putting it into words in lyrics, and as opposed to just like saying it, it hits different. And it sort of like, for me, it makes, when I put it into lyrics, it makes it make sense for me.
Yeah, yeah.
Emotionally, it feels like I've processed it once I've written about it.
Yeah. And also it's like, for example, when I was writing Guilty, it's like it helped me like walk away from this person. Because when I was writing it, it's like therapeutic, like writing it out. And then the last line of the chorus, it's like, don't say I'm guilty when you're the one who did the crime, right? So it's like,
oh, that is so good.
So right, so it's like when I was writing it, I was like, wait, like facts, like why am I so hung up on what this person is feeling? I'm so worried what they feel, but then what about my own feelings? Yeah.
And I think that's really common especially for women.
Yeah.
To be always like caring about what other people feel and not wanting to hurt other people.
Yeah.
And we usually put ourselves last.
Yeah. Actually, do you want to hear a funny story about Guilty?
Yeah.
So actually, most of my songs, it's rarely about like one person. I usually kind of like take inspiration from like different scenarios or different people. But the inspiration behind that song was a few years ago. I really liked this guy, and it was pretty obvious that he knew that I liked him. And I remember there's this one time he was so sad that someone else rejected him. So he came crying to me about this other girl who rejected him. And I'm like, this is so chaotic. This is so like bullshit. Like, why am I comforting you for your broken heart with some other girl? Like, are you serious? Like, it was like little things like that. That's like, oh my God, like, why am I letting you come to me and cry to me like this? Like,
your music has a really recognizable kind of sonic signature. I think you're so good in that genre, and you're just kind of maximizing everything about it. But I also feel like you're able to interweave a lot of really unique sounds and unique ideas and hooks, and a lot of word painting, which I love. Yeah. And so I was wondering if you can walk us through the production process of first coming up with the idea for a song and then bringing it to that final version.
Yeah. So whenever I always start the song with me and the piano. And then I always think about first, like, what's the theme? Like, it could literally be like, okay, do I want to write about heartbreak? Do I want to write about this situation? So I kind of think about what is it I want to even talk about in the first place. And then on my voice notes on my phone, I have a lot of like melodies that I just kind of hum here and there. Like sometimes I'll just think of like a really cool hook and I'll just like hum it into my phone. So I'll kind of like go through different melodies that I feel like would kind of match the tone of whatever I want to talk about. And then a lot of it is just kind of like playing around on the piano. That's how I usually come up with melodies first. And then I bring that demo. So it's just me and the piano. I bring the demo to John, who's my producer, and I'll have like a few like song references. I feel like that's a really good way to like communicate to your producer the style of production you want, like by literally showing them existing songs, right? It's like, oh, I like the drums on this song, or I like the verse production of this song. So like I have like usually 3 to 5 songs that I kind of like bring to him. So he has an idea, right, of like what direction we want to go towards. And then Um, from there, we just literally, I'm like in the room with him and we're just like starting from scratch and we're like playing around. So it's cool. Like I love being in the room
Mm-hmm.
with the producer when they're making it. Like, you know, I there's been some other producers where they would prefer not to have the artist in the room. But I really want to be in the room just to,
Yeah.
just to be there. Like I'm not gonna, look over your shoulder that closely, right? But it's just nice to be in the room just so I can see your process, and that's how I learn
Yeah.
too. And a lot of it is just kind of like playing around. It's like he'll play around with, let's say, a different drum sounds. I'm like, ooh, I like that, or I don't like that. And it's cool to kind of like, it's like we're just playing around basically, and it's like
Mm-hmm.
it's such a fun process, kind of like starting from scratch and then hearing the final song at the end.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's really cool. Something I'm like currently getting getting ready to record some music. Yay.
Yes.
So for the last two songs I put out, I found someone that I really, really like, so good. Love
Yeah.
him. But I also like realize not everyone is available at the times that you need them to be available to. And so
Yes.
I think like it's always good to keep your eyes open and like think about who is out there. But then there's also a part inside of me of like, it worked with this one person, and so I only want to work with that one person for the rest of my
Yes.
life. And it seems like you worked with a few different people. So how did you kind of settle on John?
Yeah. Yeah, no, honestly, oh, also his name is John Karkar. It's like,
When you first said his name, I'm like, that is such a generic first name.
it is. That's so funny. It's Bob.
Yeah.
No, honestly, I feel the same way because I've worked with I think four producers, including John, and I feel like because it just clicked with me and John that I'm the same way where it's like, we really get each other, we
Hmm.
vibe even like as friends, and like I really want to kind of continue this work relationship with him. But um I think before I met John, there was never issues, thankfully, with my past producers that I worked with. But I think it was just different styles.
Mm.
Yeah. So for example, I wouldn't consider my music like pop radio pop, like Katy Perry or stuff like that. I would say I'm a bit more like alternative pop. And so, if I were to work with, let's say, a pop radio producer, even though they're an amazing producer, I feel like it wouldn't be a proper fit just because that's not the exact style that they're kind of used to working with. So
Mm.
sometimes it's more than just oh, are they amazing producers? They are all amazing. It's just I think I was still trying to find someone who can help grow my specific sound that I'm looking for.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that's a really good point. I feel like there can be a misconception of like you have to find the quote unquote best producer or best
Yeah.
collaborator, but it really doesn't exist because everyone's style is so different, and what's
Exactly.
best for
Yeah.
one person is not best for someone else.
Yeah. And also like with my personal preference, like I would prefer to also I like kind of chatting with them and just vibing with them before
Hmm.
we start working. Just so I kind of like what you said, like that's how you trust someone is if, you know, talking to them, getting to know them, like that's how you trust someone. It's like how can I work with someone if I've never even had a conversation with
Yeah.
them? Like I like kind of that maybe like you can have like one session before you start working, just literally just talking about life, talking about anything.
Yeah.
I feel like that kind of helps make both people more comfortable. Yeah.
I think especially for you where your kind of artist identity is really well thought out and you express that so well visually and with the music, like it has to match, and if the person doesn't
Yeah.
understand your vibe, they're not going to match it the way it needs to be.
Yes, yeah. I think this is also why like I love being in the room with the producer like when they're working. Because I have a like I'm always down to try new ideas, but I have a general sense of like, oh, let's say this specific idea, it's like way off from what I'm trying to go with, then I can at least be there to be like, hey, that's not quite what I'm hearing right now. Yeah.
Yeah. That sounds like it would be a lot easier to do in the moment than if they had put something
Yes.
together and then sent you the track for you to give feedback on.
Yes.
Sometimes when they send you the track and you have to give your notes, it's like it could be hard to find the thing that's bugging you about it. Like
Yeah.
sometimes my producer will have to send me stems, and then I could be like, oh, okay, this is what I'm hearing that needs to be louder or needs to be
Yeah.
quieter.
Yeah. And it's hard to communicate in words specifically
Yeah.
of like feeling, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like for example, like um it could be something as simple as like, oh, like this one just sounds like murky. It's like, how do you explain that in like musical technical
Yeah.
terms? Like
Have you seen those videos of people working on songs? They're like, no, the snare needs to be ka instead of ja.
yes. Yes, yes. And which is why it's like you have to be there in person, because
Yeah.
how do you type that? How do you type that in words, right?
Yeah. It's like when you're like saying something into Siri and it's just
Yeah.
saying do 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 do.
Yes, exactly.
Something I feel that really sets you apart as an artist in Toronto has been your work with the choreographer and incorporating dance into your shows.
Yes.
So can you take us through that process?
Oh my God. That has been one of my favorites of this year because I feel like it's something so new I've never done before. So, in my past shows last year, I would do my own mini choreo, but it was just me on stage. And this year, because I had a better sense of how I move on stage, that I really wanted to bring in a choreographer to kind of be with me on stage to kind of help bring in more movement to my shows.
Mm.
So one of my great friends, his name is Mickey Nguyen. He himself is like a dance coach. He's like a professional dancer. So I started working with him, and we literally like we would work one song at a time, and I would show him what I usually do on stage, and then he would say like kind of we would either tweak it or modify it so that it looks more cohesive if you add in like a second person. So there'll be like one dancer that's going to join me on stage. So that process has been so fun. And when I watch back like the videos of the shows I did with the dancer, it looks so much better than just me on stage.
It's so cool. It looks like a full production.
Yeah, it's been so fun. It's like I'm so it's kind of like what you said. Like I'm grateful that like you find someone who not only they know how to do their work, but they understand my style of dance too. Like I'm not it's not hip hop dance. It's more like I guess flowy movements. So it's like finding someone who understands your specific style definitely, makes you want to work with them again.
It like brings out what you're already doing that's authentic
Yeah.
to you and just like bring it out even more.
Yeah, exactly. But that's been so much fun. Yeah.
It looks really fun. Like you look so powerful
Oh
on
my
stage. It's actually so cool.
gosh. It's so much rehearsal. Like
Mm-hmm.
cuz for me like I love dancing, but I'm not a trained dancer. So
Mm-hmm.
whenever I watch back the videos with me and Mickey on stage, because he is trained, like you can tell that, when he hits each move, it looks so good. And then when I look at myself, like, okay, wait, I have to like practice a bit more so I can like be up to par of like,
Mm.
like a more trained dancer. I have to like hit my moves a bit more. Like,
I'm so excited to see where this leads you.
yeah, oh
So
my
I feel
gosh.
like if any music industry professional looking at your work, they not only see this like high quality product that you're putting forth, but like with just the one person on the stage, it gives them a really good idea of where it could go, of
Yeah.
like, what if there was 5 people on stage?
Yeah.
What if there was a light show or something like that? Like, you can see the vision.
Yes. Oh my gosh, yeah. No, honestly, lighting is so underrated, but so important, like in shows. Like, in an ideal world, if I had the budget, I would definitely love to hire like a lighting guy for lighting cues. Like that adds a whole new element. Like it brings your shows to like a whole new level for sure.
Yeah, it's the dream.
Yeah.
Do you find that you always had this kind of innate confidence on stage or when performing, or did that take a while to develop as well?
I feel like I had both of like ups and downs. Like I remember this class that I took so vividly because I felt so defeated. So I think this was like a few years ago. It was like a performance class, I guess, where literally like you take the class so that you could be a better performer. And I actually used to be more afraid of singing in front of a class versus singing on stage, because I felt like when you're in a classroom things are more, I guess, intimate, or it's not like when you're on stage. Like for some reason, like I was more afraid of singing in front of a class than on stage. And I remember in this class I would be so nervous and I would sing very quiet and I would just stand because I would be so nervous, so I wouldn't really move as much. And I remember the teacher saying to me, "Oh, that I'm easily forgotten, or I'm very underwhelming." And I felt so embarrassed because
That's so mean to
it
say.
is. It is, but I felt even worse because I'm like, isn't this supposed to be a performance class where you're supposed to like help me instead of just throwing these words at me? So I feel like that I remember that so vividly because I felt like that specific teacher didn't really, like if she saw that I was nervous, I felt like she didn't do much to she just kind of like looked past me, I felt like. But I feel like a lot of it is practice and surrounding yourself with people who not only support you, but they want to like push you to keep going. I think I'm very picky with who I spend time with in my personal life, because I feel like they are I'm so grateful for like my friends and the people I work with, because they are the ones who kind of push me to keep going. Yeah,
that's so important. I feel like when there's drama with the people in your inner circle, it could take up so much space in your head.
Yes. And like there's drama all the time, but sometimes it's like stupid drama. You know what I mean? It's like, can we not just talk about it like adults? Why do we have to make it like a huge thing? Like, you know what I mean? Sometimes it's not that deep. We can just
I know,
right? we can just talk it out. We'll say sorry. Why does it have to be like a huge thing? You know what I mean? Like...
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, all too well. Yeah. I feel like sometimes I feed off of the drama, though. I either create drama in my own head or I just feed off of other people's.
But you know what? That can be good song inspiration. If you have, honestly, like, because I've been writing for this album, I actually haven't had a chance to write about the shit I dealt with this year. Like, just for, like, writing songs for my own, So I feel like once I put out this album, I am so excited to, like, write about all the tears I've shed this year.
I already know pretty soon I'm gonna write a song. It's like, no one responded to my text messages.
Oh my god, mood.
I was crying for weeks and still didn't respond. Yeah. Sorry, I want to go back to something I didn't ask about the album. How did you pick the songs you wanted to include on the album? Because I'm sure
Yeah.
you wrote more songs than you ended up putting on it. Or maybe not, I don't know.
I I felt like a good chunk of this album, I whatever new song I would start working on, like with my producer, I knew that I wanted this on the album. I feel
Mm-hmm.
like because I feel like this album is also how I'm feeling in my personal life. So whatever songs I was writing these past few years was like me trying to overcome something, me trying to be strong, but kind of struggling here and there. So I felt like
Mm-hmm.
I automatically, whatever I was writing, I was also like, oh, this is literally how I'm feeling also for the album and in my personal life. So it just kind of fit. There is one song that I ended up not putting on the album. Um, so 2 years ago, I went through a breakup and I wanted to have just one song about like how I felt on the breakup day. You know,
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't anything super bitter. It was just how shocked I was on the breakup day.
Yeah.
And now, because it's been 2 years later, I feel like I I love that song, but I didn't want it on the album. I felt like it didn't really fit. So I ended up just taking it out.
Like thematically.
I think it was more of a personal choice. Like I
Mm-hmm.
feel like because I don't have any like sadness or resentment towards this person anymore that I just felt like, oh, I love this song, but I'm just gonna kind of keep it, or maybe it's not ready to be out yet, but I felt
Mm-hmm.
like I don't think I want it on this album. Yeah, I think it was just more of like a personal choice of like when I wrote it 2 years ago, obviously it was so fresh of
Yeah.
like that's how I was feeling that that was yeah, that was the only one that I ended up not putting on the album. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fun. I always find it kind of jarring for me personally how when I'm making a project, it's about
Yeah.
how I'm feeling at the time, but then it takes a long time to get that project off the ground. And so
Yes.
it'll be like a year later since I wrote the song. It's
Yeah.
very different. I actually, in October, I I released a song that I had written about at like the beginning of my relationship,
Mm-hmm.
and it was like kind of like a love song.
Mm-hmm.
And during like right around the release time is when we broke up.
Oh my God.
And so it was like a very different vibe
Oh my
when I
God.
released the song. It was very unfortunate timing.
I'm not even joking. That same thing happened to me.
Yeah.
I'm not even joking. Like, oh my God, we have the same
Yeah.
experiences. I'm not even joking. So the first song I worked on with John was called Counting Me. And the song is basically about someone who leaves you, but they end up thinking about you all the time still.
Mm-hmm.
And I wrote this song back when I was still with my boyfriend at the time. And I wrote it obviously not about him, but I'm not even joking. A week before release date,
Yes,
that was when
literally.
we broke up. And I remember promoting the song and I'm like, this is like I'm literally living through
Yeah.
these lyrics. Like this is literally what's happening to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, oh my god. Songs, I feel like you look at the song so differently too, because you just
Yeah.
went
Oh
through
yeah.
a different experience. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it was funny because when I put out the song, my drummer who played on the track,
Yeah.
he reposted it, and what he wrote on the story really stuck with me. The song is about like having the courage to fall in love and to allow yourself to be vulnerable with
Yeah.
someone even if you're nervous about it.
Mm-hmm.
And so he put a really interesting spin on it and was he sort of mentioned something about having the courage to be who you are and to be yourself. And that meant a lot to me because it kind of put the song in a different perspective for me.
Yeah.
And like the process of working on the song, I met all of the people who I still work with now. And so now, a year after the release, it for me it's like more of a song about like friendship
Yeah.
and trusting the people around you. So even then
Yeah.
it takes on a different meaning.
Yeah. And that's why like even when I hear someone else's song, it's it's cool to hear like their specific experience, what inspired them to write the song, but lyrics can be so, like, I love that it doesn't have to be about a specific thing.
Yeah.
You can still relate to it with so many different types of experiences, right? Yeah.
And even when the more specific the lyrics are and the more kind of details about the scenery or how things smelled or how things looked, like all of those details are, even if they're specific to one situation, when someone's listening to it, they can grasp at those details and
Yeah.
turn it into something that connects to them, which is so
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. I definitely have to get back into it. Like, cause like kind of like what I mentioned before, I've been writing specifically for the album for so long that it's been a while since I just kind of wrote just to write. So I have to get back on that.
Do you find that it's more difficult to jump back into songwriting after uh, not taking a break from it, but like working on other things?
I find it harder to write for an album because I love I love albums in general because I love like the visuals and the stories that come with it. But I find it a bit harder to write for an album because it kind of has to, whether it's like with the themes or for anything like that, they kind of have to work well together in an album, or else they could just live as a single. But I think that was one tricky thing about working on the album for sure.
Yeah, I have a question for you because how I tend to approach things is that when I want to do a larger scale project, it's more of like I've been writing songs all year and I have songs that I would like to release and I want
Yeah.
to put them together as this project instead of starting with I want to make an album and I'm going to write with that in mind. And I feel like starting with kind of thinking about beforehand what the themes are and what you want it to be might be a better move because then things are more cohesive. I'm wondering what your thoughts are on that.
Like um like for example when I was working uh on this album, I thought of the title, like I had the title in mind for like the longest time, and I knew
Mm-hmm.
that this was going to be an album that's not as sad. It's, a bit more confident. Like I knew I had that general sense of an idea that writing the songs kind of fell naturally into that theme.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like everyone kind of has their own process, but I think for me, um, I just gravitate towards like the titles first,
Mm-hmm.
um, or at least like the theme first, just so it's just easier for me that whatever song I end up writing, it still fits in that category. Like, you
Yeah.
know, with Phase Two Power Struggle, like I wouldn't write a song about depression. I think that would fit the first album. So at least I had an idea of like a general vibe of like what I want to talk about.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Mm-hmm.
It's like looking at the destination, but not
Yeah.
necessarily planning the route to get there, but knowing that you're gonna get there.
Yeah. Yeah. Because if you wanted to go like the other route, then the songs can just live by itself like as a single then. Like it doesn't have to be in an album if you would prefer to write the songs first. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's the route I'm gonna have to go now because I wanted to make like an actual full album with like
Yeah.
10 songs, and I was applying to a lot of grants. I don't think some I haven't heard back from yet, but honestly, I don't think I got any of them, which is expected. But I still want to release music,
Yeah.
but now I'm going from like 8 new songs to like 4 for
Yeah.
this recording this fall. And so the ones I've chosen, they don't if it was like a larger album project, it would be fine because the theme would like 90% of the songs would follow the theme that I was going for, and then there might be like one or two that kind of fit but are a little bit different.
Yeah.
But then when it's 4, it needs, like, if you're putting it into a project, everything needs to fit that theme. And if
Yeah.
there's one that doesn't, it's like it's just weird because it just doesn't like one of these things is not like the other.
Yeah. But I feel like I think that's the fun thing about being an independent artist is that like there really isn't any rules. Like I feel like if you end up loving that like fifth song, but it just maybe even though it didn't fit the theme, I feel like if you love it, it doesn't matter. You can still put it together. Like you don't have like a label being like you can't do that. So I feel like that's one thing I like. That's one of the good parts about being an independent artist is that like you can literally do whatever you want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like everything's a learning experience.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember I was talking like back in the day, this was like 2021, I think. I was talking to someone and because I was trying to make an EP and things just were not going well because I was still trying to find a producer who A, had the time and B, worked with the style that I was going for. And so I was talking to this person on the phone. It's like a friend, but he was also helping me with some stuff with the EP. And he was kind of ripping into me and like he was being really rude.
What did he say?
And he was saying like the demo that the guy sent you sounded so bad. Like, do you want to be making an EP that's shit? Like, and
Damn.
like I'm like, what the heck? And
that's where I say bye.
Yeah, honestly, I should have, but I had to kind of put my foot down and say like, hey, this isn't your project. I know what I want with the songs and it's going to happen even if I have to take a bit of time to figure it out and find the right people. And if I mess up, that's my mistake and that's my learning experience.
Yeah. And I think my issue with that guy is it's not what you say, is how you say it.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like I know that music is like the genre. It's okay to not like something, but it bothers me when you phrase it in such a rude way. Like he could have phrased that in such a better, in a more like constructive way. You know what I mean?
So many different ways.
Yeah. Like, so I think that's my issue. Like I don't need everyone to love my music. You can disagree with me. That's cool. But like, you don't have to be a jerk about it. Like, damn.
Yeah. Like when someone starts putting you down, it doesn't matter how talented they are or how good they are at their job. Like that's just unprofessional.
Yeah.
But I mean, everything worked out in the end. I released my EP. Yay.
Yeah.
So it was good. Like it ended up working out. I ended up finding a producer that fit well.
That's
so
good.
It was good.
Yeah.
That whole EP was a turning point for me because I had for my whole life, like I've really struggled with my own self-confidence. And when you're making a project like that, you can't, like, you have to be confident in yourself because no one's patting you on the back. Nobody's doing it for you. And hopefully not too often, but sometimes there are people who will, like, take advantage of you or, you know, whatever that looks like. But you have to be able to stand up for yourself. And so that really kind of put me in a position where it's like, if I want to make this happen, I need to be confident in what I'm doing.
Yeah. I think honestly, like, making music and kind of being like self-managed definitely helps in like my personal life. In the beginning, I used to be so afraid of saying, oh, I don't like that, or yes, no, like I'm like, oh, I don't want to come across as like a bitch or something, but I feel like now, like kind of like after each, you know, experience or every time I work on a song, like you definitely like grow even like as a person. And I feel like now I'm so much more comfortable with being like, oh, I don't know about that. Like, whereas in the beginning I used to like struggle with saying, oh, I don't like that.
Yeah, I struggled with the same thing, and I think some of it is because when I'm working with a producer, I know that they know more than I do about, you know, music production, and so I would always have a fear of like they know more than I do, so therefore their idea is always right, and sometimes that's just not the, like, some, especially like with us, like we've both done music degrees, and so even if we don't know a lot about music production, we know about music, we know what sounds nice, we know what our personal preferences are. So.
Yeah.
It's
I
like
think,
it's a tough balance.
yeah. I think I also used to be afraid of saying, "Oh, I don't know." Like
Mm-hmm.
with certain um I guess audio engineering technical terms, like in the beginning I used to be so embarrassed for saying, "Oh, I don't know what that means," or "I don't know what
Mm-hmm.
this word means." But like now I'm not as like embarrassed because I'll be like, "Oh, I don't know what that means." Like what is that though? So then like so that I know for the future.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's been on my list to I really want to create a resource that's like literally like a PDF but of terms that would come up in studio and in rehearsals.
Yes.
The
Yes.
one I think about all the time is backbeat, and like I didn't know what the word was, so I remember just telling my piano player like, "Can you play like less jazzy?" And because
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I didn't know what backbeat was, and then
Yeah.
once I learned that word, I'm like, "Oh, that's what I meant to say."
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
I think that would just give people a lot more confidence in expressing their ideas in like in the studio and in rehearsal. So yeah, I keep on saying that I'm gonna do it, and then I haven't done it yet.
No, I think that's definitely like a really cool idea because sometimes it's like kind of like what we were saying before. It's like I know what it is I want to say, but I don't know how to put it into words.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And what you were saying before about sitting in on the
Yeah.
sessions, that helps so much because then you can just either use different ways to express it other than
Exactly.
words, or they might say, "Oh, do you mean this?" And then it's
Yeah.
like, "Yes, I did mean that."
Yes. And also like you learn so much. Like I love just watching my producer just like do his thing on the computer. Like I
Yeah.
learned so much just by literally watching him work.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I remember when I was putting out a song, and I remember listening back to it, and there was electric guitar in it, and I remember listening very closely to how like my producers played the guitar part, and then now I'm like that really helped me understand one of the possible roles that electric guitar could play in a
Mm-hmm.
song. So then fast forward like recently I was making a cover of a song that is kind of, more of an upbeat vibe, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna do the same guitar thing that he did in the song. And so
Yeah.
like I wouldn't have known that
Mm-hmm.
if I didn't kind of hear it from him.
Yeah.
I'd love to ask you about your your plans on promoting your album and having it reach a lot of people, especially as an independent artist. That can be really hard
Yeah.
when we don't have massive budgets behind us. And so like what how do you approach promoting your work?
Um, so I'm actually like currently working on like my social media calendar. Um,
Ooh.
um, the my past two singles that I released, like I worked with this PR company. They're called Auteur Research. And they're actually I think they're based in Hamilton, so they're like Canadian based. And I know they've worked with like different Canadian artists, both like small and bigger artists. Um, so I'm gonna work with them again for this album release because I feel like I there's only so much I can do. There's only so much of my own pitching I can do
Mm-hmm.
myself, and most of the time they're like cold calls or cold emails. Like
Yeah.
so, I don't even know if my emails are reaching their inbox. So I feel like working with PR companies, uh, especially like ones that I know other people has worked with, just so I know like they are legit.
Mm-hmm.
um, I feel like working with them has definitely helped with like going on blogs or getting on Spotify playlists. I'm helping with streams. And it's just really helpful to just like put your project on like a bigger platform.
Yeah.
I feel like uh, even though I am doing PR, I feel like I wouldn't say that it's mandatory just because we have like TikTok and like Instagram Reels. Like we literally have like our own power to promote our music and run ads. Like we can do that all by ourselves, which I'm definitely doing as well. But I actually for this album, I filmed like a mini album story, I guess, like a story
Ooh.
visualizer. I filmed it back in like June, so like, um, just so you know, like we'll have time to edit the video.
Yeah.
But it's gonna come out on release day. So instead of filming like a new music video, I thought it'd be a better idea to film like a mini like story to kind of help tell everyone what the album is about.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm really excited to kind of like put that out once the album
That's so
is out.
exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm kind of realizing that we have a lot more options than I thought in terms of like what we could do visually.
Yeah.
Like it was kind of for most of the summer, it was kind of in my head of like, oh, I gotta do a music video for every single. I gotta do a music video. I gotta do a music video. But when you have no money, you gotta think of other things.
Yeah,
And
and
so,
and and also like with music videos, like you it could be very DIY style.
yeah.
Like with the lyric videos that I usually make, I literally take a like 6 second video and I just loop that for the whole lyric video because like I feel like it's better to have at least some sort of visual
Yeah.
than to have like no lyric video. So
Mm-hmm.
and that literally costs me like nothing because I can literally just film it on my phone. You can have like a cool backdrop, you know, or you can film it outside and I just loop that video for like the whole song. And that's
Mm-hmm.
like my those are my lyric videos. So you
That's
never
such a
have
smart
to,
idea.
yeah, like you never have to spend like a big budget. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There's also what's it called? There's some websites that have copyright free video clips.
Yeah.
I think one's called Pixabay. I forget the other one. But if your vibe is like beach, for example,
Yeah.
you can find a video of a beach that loops.
Yeah. Yeah, like there's so many tools like and you have like Canva. Like I use Canva for like so many things.
Oh,
Like
I love Canva. Canva does video.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like so you never have to spend like a huge budget. Like I feel like if anything, you could save your budget to run ads. Yeah.
I was thinking of maybe doing a content shoot at some point. So instead of just having um a music video, instead you have like 100 short little videos for
Yeah.
content.
Yeah.
I think that might work. And then I could just, if I get the raw footage, and I can just edit it myself and
Yeah, yeah.
milk everything I can out of those
Exactly.
those video clips.
Like which is why like I love TikTok because it's like if I posted a video last month, I can literally post that same video again today. Like no one's
Hmm.
gonna care.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I've said this before on another interview. I think I said it on like literally the last interview I did. But something that really stuck with me that someone said to me so many years ago. I asked them a question about social media because at that point my music account was still like private. I was kind of worried
Mhm.
about making it public. And he said that you think that like people remember every single video that you post, but when
Mhm.
it's on social media, everything's really short. People forget a lot. And
Yeah.
even if you like post something on one day and then the next day you're like, I'm not really vibing with this. I'm not really comfortable having that on. You take it off. Like it's very rare that people are gonna remember that.
People's attention span is so low these days.
Yeah.
And also like when you post that same video again like a month later, you reach like a new audience. So
Mm-hmm.
so it's like and which is why like I love like what this new I guess music era is because like the song that you released even like let's say 5 years ago it's old to me but it's new to like the rest of the world. You can
Yeah.
literally promote the song you released years ago and it's going to be new to someone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's this YouTuber who talks about the music business, and he says a song never dies, it just
Yeah.
stops being promoted.
Yes, oh my god, facts. Yeah.
I'm going to ask the last two questions for our interview. The first one is, what resource or piece of advice would you give to your younger self when you were beginning your journey?
Don't stop doing it because someone like made fun of you or something. Like, I remember another incident so specifically when back in high school in grade 9, I remember I took a vocal class. Like, it was like I chose that as one of my electives. And I remember showing it to my friend, being like, oh, like I'm taking a vocal class. And he like laughed in my face because he was like, oh, you're gonna sing. And then I dropped the class.
No.
I dropped it because I was embarrassed. And I remember that so vividly because I'm like, I feel like it's impossible to not care at all what people think. You know, you can still care what people think, but don't let that stop you from doing it, whatever it is you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You gotta find that person who made fun of you and say, look where she is now! Look!
I don't know if this person even remembers doing this, but I remember it because it, like, probably don't even remember.
It hits deep.
Yeah.
Yeah. It sucks because sometimes people don't even realize what they're saying.
Yeah. And
they don't realize
the impact.
Yeah. So our last question is, do you have a music recommendation for our audience?
Right now, I'm listening to this artist. Her name is Isla. Iyla.
I love Isla.
Oh my god. Okay, so I love her. I discovered her, I think, right before the pandemic because I went to her show. Were you there?
No, I discovered her like in the pandemic in 2020.
Oh, she had a show in February 2020 and I just made it. But I'm kind of rewatching her music videos and I'm rewatching like her interviews and stuff. She, I guess, is on a break or something because she hasn't posted much, but I really like her voice, music, visuals, music videos. Like, I love everything about her. Yeah.
She's so great.
Yeah.
She has so much control in her voice.
Yeah. And she's very underrated. I feel like she definitely needs, like, more people has to know about her.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. She reminds me of you. Like that same kind of theatrical vibe.
Yes. Her, like, I guess visual director is Embryo. Like, he's the one who usually, like, I guess directs and kind of creates the music videos, and I'm like doing a deep dive into his work because like he's so amazing. Yeah.
That's so cool. Yeah, well, thank you so much for being on the show.
This was so much fun.
Yeah. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Bedroom Studios podcast. Don't forget to add this podcast to your playlist and follow us on Instagram, YouTube, and Spotify at Bedroom Studios Podcast. Lastly, you should definitely follow Vicki Lovelee on social media and check out her music. All her links can be found in the episode description. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you in the next episode.